Artificial selection is a top-down shooter where players are given a massive variety of weapons to combat constantly changing and evolving enemy AI. Players are given a reason to experience more of the game's experimental features through the emergence of dynamic enemy action and counteraction, as well as experimental gameplay incentives unique to artificial selection. In artificial selection, we currently have an arena mode, which can be used by players to test out different builds against waves of AIs that counter them better with every wave. A campaign, in which players can accrue weapons and items usable by the character for all other game modes, in which enemies are constantly evolving to counter the player throughout the duration of the campaign. And lastly, a simulation mode of AI versus AI combat for a less stressful view of the experimental AI at work. So how does this evolution work? Just like in the biological process of natural selection, the inhabitants of artificial selection will adapt over multiple generations to their environment and against their predators. During gameplay, their predator is the player himself. Therefore, changing the environment, or changing what weapons you combat the enemies with, will interfere with their evolution, causing them, in effect, to get easier as they try to adapt again. To test the player's skill versus the powers of evolution, an enemy called the Apex Hunter is dropped in periodically. This special enemy uses a mix of the best enemy behaviors and weaponry so far. It is designed to incentivize the player to see the game's experimental features to the fullest extent. Fortunately, the player is given access to millions of possible weapons, with dynamic and emergent combinations. The best way to defeat evolved enemies is to change your weaponry as well as your strategy.